data. And that's where it has the camera your image was shot with, the aperture setting, and all that. Within that general area in the library will be a choice for title and caption. And I think, I'm not absolutely sure though, I might have a few of those on some images. Let me see if I happen to have them here. If not, I'll show you that on a different feature. Nope, not within this set. So that's where we have some information included. It can be nice if you end up printing these out. You need to later on come back and actually find the files. Instead of having somebody tell you it was the third one on the third page, they can just tell you the file name. And then you have the font size for how large you want that text to be. Below that, we have an area called Print Job. And under Print Job is where we can specify really how Lightroom is going to talk to your printer. In the upper right, you'd be able to choose between printing to a printer and printing to a JPEG file. If you choose JPEG file, one additional option, or possibly more than one, but one additional option shows up, which is the quality slider for the JPEG. That's if I'm not going to print these images myself. Instead, I'm going to give them to somebody else, a lab, to output them instead of using my own printer. Otherwise, I'd have it set to printing. Here we have the print resolution, and if I have that turned off, I believe it will use the native resolution of the pictures. If I turn this on, it will scale the pictures up or down, usually mainly down, to the number that is over here, and I can change that number. The advantage of having it scale the images down to a particular resolution is sharpening. When the image is scaled down to the proper size before sharpening is applied, the sharpening will be more effective. If you have a huge image and when you scale it down and it remains with the amount of information it began with, the pixels that make up the image will be so small that any sharpening applied to it in general won't even show up. And so it'd be nice to be able to have it scale the images down. Also, it'll be less information to send to the printer, so it'll print faster. Then below that, we have print sharpening, and here we can tell it how much. That's a personal preference as to how much you like, low, standard, or high. I would usually end up using standard. And then below that, it wants to know what kind of media are you printing on, either uncoated paper or coated paper. It says matte or glossy. There is a choice here for 16-bit output, and that would end up sending a lot more information to your printer. If you have that turned off, it would send 8 bits of information. 8 bits means 256 brightness levels. And that's good enough for most things. But if you have any really gradual transitions across a very wide area from not radically different colors, but really similar colors, you might want to turn that on, and you could get a smoother result wherever you have a smooth gradient from one color to another over a long area. It could look a little smoother, but it's going to take longer to print because it sends more info. But for most average images that don't have huge expanses of sky and huge expanses of other gradients, you could probably get away with having it turned off, and it might print a little faster. Below that, we have color management section, and you have 2 choices on how to manage your color. You can either have Lightroom manage your color, or you can have your printer's print dialog box do it. And this is not my copy of Lightroom, so in here, my version usually has a list here of multiple profiles. This one doesn't. If I choose Other, it will list any profiles that are installed here. Unfortunately, this particular machine, which is just Creative Live's machine, doesn't have any installed. But if you had any profiles installed that you maybe use in Photoshop or use in other programs, they would usually show up here. Just to get some of them to show up, I bet you I could turn that on. These aren't printer profiles. These are display profiles, just RGB profiles in general. But I can turn some of these on to make them show up within the list. And actually, that might be helpful in other areas of Lightroom, which I'll describe later. I mainly want those. But if I had properly installed my printer drivers for my printer,